Everyone knows the famous conundrum about the World War II European who is hiding Jews in his cellar. If the Nazis come knocking at your door and ask if you have any Jews in your home, you have a choice between two moral imperatives: preserving innocent human life by lying, or telling the truth. I doubt very many of us would choose the second one over the first one. With that in mind, let's now consider a common problem text in the New Testament. The manuscript evidence tells us something that doesn't belong here. There's a word in the King James Version that wasn't in the original Greek. Yeah.
How dare thee! Thou hast just turned Jesus into a liar.
Oh, really? How so?
Because he did goeth up to the feast. And if he did goeth up to the feast, then he lied to his brethren.
Okay, I'll give you two choices here. One is to highlight the words, "the time is not yet come." Now, some commentators will say that within the next few days, the time was right, and Jesus received a later and unexpected word from the Father telling him to go to the feast. That would be consistent with Jesus' lack of knowledge of things like the time of the end, and John's theme of Jesus as one who does the Father's will alone.
All righteth, what beeth the other choice?
The other choice is a social concept that you might find a little hard to swallow. And that's that, yes, Jesus deceived his brothers.
And how canst thou say such a thing? Surely the Son of God would not lieth.
Oh, really? Do you think Jesus would have lied to the Nazis about hiding their victims in his cellar? Precisely. Even in the modern world, we recognize valid and moral exceptions to the principle that we should tell the truth. What we may not realize is that in the world of the Bible, and in cultures like that of the Bible, that range of exceptions was a lot wider. Let's consider a couple of non-biblical examples. In many Eastern societies today, like that of Japan, a person may purposely give what will seem to a modern Western person to be an indirect or incomplete answer to avoid conflict. One of the most commonly cited examples of this is the avoidance of a direct yes or no answer to questions. So, for example, it is said that you might ask a Japanese guest, "Do you want coffee or tea?" And the reply might be, "Either is fine." Now, an American might take this to mean that really either one is fine, and just pick the one they want and give it to their guest. But for the Japanese guest, it could mean one of many things. It could really mean that they have no preference. Or it could mean that they don't want to impose and want you to pick whichever one is the least trouble. Or it could mean they don't want either one, but think it would be rude to say no outright. Another example is offered by J.K. Campbell in Honor, Family, and Patronage. Campbell describes how among the Sarakatsan of Greece, heads of households must continually use lies to protect their family from perceived harm, and to deny other people information which they might use for social or even physical harm. A household head who didn't deceive others this way would be considered foolish and neglectful of his duty. For example, let's say some stranger comes to a Sarakatstan village and asks a farmer how many sheep he has. Sounds like a harmless request, right? It may not be. There's a good chance that the request like that is meant to sound out a likely target for stealing sheep. You find the farmer with the most sheep and take a few from him, because he won't miss them as soon. In such circumstances, a wise farmer will be sure and understate how many sheep he has. And by the way, just answering none of your business won't work, because a potential thief will easily see that as a way to hide how many sheep you really have. Campbell stresses that it is not that the Sarakatstani fail to understand the virtues of truth and sincerity, because when they're not dealing with strangers, they're fully open and honest. But because their world is perceived of as dangerous and fallen, cunning is required in order to ward off threats to their well-being. Under such circumstances, misleading others is a virtue, not a vice. The modern Western person sometimes considers this sort of thing annoying at best and outright lying at worst. But in these cultural settings, it's a matter of choosing some greater good. In the case of John 7, it could easily be argued that Jesus' answer to his brothers was a way of acting in a way that was favorable to the greater good. At the time, you'll notice it says his brothers didn't believe in him. So why would they encourage him to go to the feast and perform miracles? The answer would be that they're really hoping he'll foul up and embarrass himself. And when he does that, they think they'll be rid of someone who's bringing shame onto their family. In that light, it really does make sense for Jesus to keep his plans a secret. He knows what they're planning. And he also knows it would be foolish or neglectful of his duties to others to allow his brothers to misuse that information to harm him and his ministry. The bottom line is, we all recognize that while telling the truth is a cardinal virtue, we also recognize that there are times when it takes a backseat to other virtues, especially where the truly greater good is concerned. It's just that in the biblical world, there were a lot more ways for people to use the truth to cause serious harm, which means there was also a lot more reason at times to be judicious when it came to hiding the truth. So that's option 2. What do you say?
La 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 la, I listeneth not to this heresy.
See you next time.